Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize on whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily, joined on this lovely Wednesday by the lovely Ash app. How are you doing, Ash?
I thought about sleeping in and making you do the show by yourself, but I figured you already did that once this week. So
damn, throwing shade at Alpha Warrior right off the rip. No, I talked to Alpha after the show yesterday, and he completely forgot. So he wasn't told. He was told about it over the weekend, and so I get it. He was driving when he was told, so he didn't write it down. Out of sight, out of mind. All is forgiven. Still love the big guy,
big lug.
Yeah, I got to talk to him after the show, but he might be on tomorrow because I know there's a conflict with Ghost. So
yeah, Ghost decided to swap with Alpha when we have a show at that time. So that was weird to hear.
He's gonna multitask.
Well, we have General Quas coming on The Choice tomorrow, season 2, episode 1, and Ghost better show up.
Nah, he's gonna skip out. Badlands commitments are commitments, man. Commitments are no. We'll see what happens. Barris says, and you believe him. Come on, Brian. One thing I don't know, man. I don't know that Alpha would lie to me. Totally kidding. Alpha. No, he's the Fed, right? So we gotta. I'm just joking, guys. Relax.
Oh, anyway, that's weird. I'm trying to figure out why I can't see the chat, and I had yesterday's book club chat still up. I'm like, why isn't the chat moving? Usually the chat's moving. Well, it was wrong chat. My bad. Hi, guys.
Book club. Yeah, by the way, Badlands Book Club last night was awesome, man. We got through chapter 1 on the recap. We were supposed to do all 3. We got through 1.
It's okay. It's important to take our time, I think.
Actually, we got through 2. I forgot. We got through 2 because
barely.
2 is like 3 pages. So
you keep saying it's 3 pages. I think it's like 5.
It's like 3. It's like 3. Anyways, all right. We've got a lot to get to today. So before we do that, let's just go ahead and check out one of our sponsors. Let's talk a little bit about soft disclosure. Get you some of that beard oil.
Now that I'm alone, got the close up. Do you see how awesome my beard looks right now?
I use the beard oil every single day. First thing.
Comes out feeling all silky smooth.
I take the dropper and I manually apply the oil directly
hair.
to my mustache.
Nice and, oh man, I love it.
And then I do drops all throughout the hair, and then I just rub it all in. And then I top it off with the tallow stick on the face.
Dude, I feel like I have to grow a beard just to try this beard oil. It sounds
Do it, Jay.
amazing.
It's all from softdisclosure.com, and the best part about it is you will be supporting Badlands Media, Annie from Willow and Farms, and basically 3 of Annie's neighbors. So that's 5 total American companies that you'd be supporting with 1 purchase.
I have been using the Soft Disclosure scentless beard oil every day after the shower. It looks unkempt, but it feels silky smooth. I want to look a little wild and unapproachable, but for the woman I trust, she'll be like, oh, it's actually kind of soft. He is approachable after all. Otherwise, stay away. And Soft Disclosure will help you too with that if that's the very specific vibe you're going for.
That is very specific, yes.
You guys are supporting American businesses when you do that. It's absolutely incredible, and you get a great product. I can't even take Burning Bright seriously, man.
Why? He has a very specific use case for his beard. I think it makes a lot of sense.
It's a hell of a thought process that he went to arrive at that at that conclusion or that decision, specificity.
Small batch, handcrafted, incredible America First body care products. The supply chain for these products is American small businesses. You're force multiplying your daughter. No, we're not doing that. You're force multiplying your dollars when you buy Soft Disclosure, and you get, like as Brian says in the ad, incredible products. The goat's milk lotion is changing lives. The beard oil is making Badlands hosts more approachable to their wives, which is, I think, probably welcome by all the wives, and maybe not. Let's be honest, ladies. But you know, this I'm so excited about Soft Disclosure because of the America First story. It didn't click in my head until I went out to the farm and saw what we're a part of with it, and it's pretty freaking cool. So softdisclosure.com, promo code Badlands.
All right. And, you know, Ash, I was reluctant to bring this up to you because it's kind of a catch-22 because there's, you know, obviously a clear argument to be made here on your behalf. But how about them Florida Panthers handing the Avs their third loss of the season on Sunday, 2-1. But it's also the third loss.
Avs. Yeah, how about that? Nobody's even close.
It's your third loss, right?
Yeah. The next closest team is at like 25 wins, and we're at like 30 or 31. So
yeah, that's insane.
Suck it,
absolutely insane. But the Panthers did take them down, and then they lost last night.
How about those Panthers with uniforms that look like bloody vomit?
Ugh. And everybody's freaking out about them down here, and I don't understand it. They're hideous. We only have one throwback uniform, and it's better than the current uniforms by far. But yeah,
it's got like a baby vomit color with like red stripes. I don't know what's going on.
Yellow shorts.
Yeah, not good.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
All
right, guys. So let's get into the news. Before we do that, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. President Trump put out a Truth Social post that will start with some Venezuela stuff. I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I've asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Hang on. Before we talk about this, MedBed says the NFL is rigged and fixed, totally scripted. Can we not waste any energy on the grooming operation that is the NFL, please? Yes, MedBeds. We were talking about hockey. It was the NHL was what we were talking about.
MedBeds doesn't know the difference between the NHL and hockey.
And he shouldn't bitch about it.
Hey, man,
you bitch about whatever you want.
We got to have some pastimes. I mean, when you live your life 24/7 in the news cycle, you got to have something to get away from. Like, I was so excited last night that the Panthers game was televised that I sat there and watched us get our asses kicked by the Maple Leafs just because I needed to get my mind off of everything else going on. So
you lost to Canada?
Yeah, 3-1. Wow. We are so banged up. We don't have Kachuk. Kachuk's coming back this week. We're missing Barkov. We're missing a lot of players right now, but we'll be healthy at the right time, and it's okay.
T. Gretzky has pointed out that you were very quiet after the last Avs Panthers game in which the Avs won 6-2.
That's not something to brag about, though, because you guys only had
a little bit on your on handing us our third loss of the season.
Yeah. All right. So I want to jump in and play this clip here. Now, I haven't vetted this.
We didn't talk about the oil. We skipped over the oil. Do you want to talk about the oil?
No, we're staying on the oil. Staying on the oil. I don't know how true this is. It's quite interesting, but check this out.
After capturing Nicolás Maduro and transporting him to a U.S. federal prison to face charges, Trump announced the U.S. will run the country until a safe transition is possible. But what if the U.S. never leaves? The Petro reset breaks OPEC's global price monopoly. By seizing Venezuela's 300 billion barrels of oil, the world's largest reserves, the U.S. crashes gas prices to a historic $1 at the pump. This logistics miracle slashes shipping costs by 70%, cutting the price of groceries and goods by 30% overnight. Inflation vanishes as the energy tax is deleted, triggering a surge in domestic manufacturing. The currency collapse is solved by replacing the bolivar with the US dollar, stabilizing cost while zeroing savings. As a migration reverse brings 7.7 million refugees back to rebuild $400 billion in decaying infrastructure. The Southern Command expansion dismantles gangs and rebels, cutting crime by 90% as Venezuela becomes a de facto 51st state. This superpower pivot evicts Russia and China, freezing $60 billion in debt and granting the U.S. total military and economic hegemony over South America.
Wouldn't that be the ushering in of the golden age?
That was a really fun video with what all the stuff they had. I don't know if they were trying to make Trump look bad, but I think it made him look awesome.
Oh,
and
definitely not trying to make him look bad.
Okay. Yeah. Some of those moments in there. I disagree with the 51st state thing. I don't think it needs to be a de facto 51st state. I think it can be a territory, and territorial governance reviving, as we look at other territories as well. But that is great. And if you need an engine to, so President Trump has done a bunch of deals that have brought investment, right? A lot of that is tech investment. We're, creating factories that are going to build certain types of tech things. But in order for us to really unleash the American people and the innovation of the American people and the American economy, we're going to have some sort of kind of kickstarting engine, I think. And that looks like a good one. It's also something that's happening right now. So,
I was going to say, I don't know if it would be the 51st state. It probably, by the time we get Venezuela hashed out, it'll probably be like the 53rd state behind Canada and Greenland. But we'll see.
We're not adding more states. So
I'm totally
we're doing.
Cheek, totally being kidding around. No, I think that video actually is quite interesting. Perhaps this is why, like we were talking about kind of briefly last night on book club, the economic stranglehold that they have over Venezuela. We talked about Modil and how he went from Venezuela to come to the United States and study under the IMF, work for the IMF, and then go into private capital and back to Venezuela and essentially become an economic hitman is what it sounds like. But that, suppressing Venezuela, like they say in this video, was pertinent to OPEC, right? Because if you have a non-OPEC country, and Venezuela's not an OPEC, right? As far as I know, they're not an OPEC. Fact check me on that. I don't think they're an OPEC. But having a non-OPEC country with such, vast, oil reserves would be detrimental to their monopoly and their grip that they have.
Yes, Venezuela is a founding and current member of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Companies.
Well, then scratch that. Maybe we get them out of OPEC and under U.S. jurisdiction and say, no more OPEC, we're going to war with you. But that's also kind of counterintuitive to President Trump's approach to the Middle East, in his first year in office around here, to do something like that, to kind of smack OPEC in the face if he were to do something like that. So again, that's a highly theoretical clip we just played there, but it's still fun. It's fun.
I think there's probably a little bit of truth in that. I don't know that it's going to happen exactly the way that it said it in the video clip, but there's certainly things that are possible, and good to hope for.
Yeah. The other big story going around is this
dollar gas sounds awesome.
Dollar gas sounds fantastic, and it would. Well, if we had dollar gas, the video says that groceries and other stuff would go down 30% overnight. I don't believe that. You can't get people to so inflation during Biden was up, 20% at one point, 9%, whatever the case might be. Inflation was through the roof under Joe Biden. It's now stabilized. you're not seeing any movement in the prices. Really, you're seeing a little bit in certain things, like eggs are way down. You know, there's some other products that are way down, but broadly, groceries are down. You know, maybe a couple percentage points at most.
Yeah, I think we'll see. I think we'll see it adjust more. But I do think some of what you're describing is greed, right? If you look at the
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
At the like, think about just a very micro example, right? Think about air travel. When we were dealing with the 2008 financial crisis, they started adding bag fees and all of these, energy related fees associated, which added, $100 in fees. You know, I'm guessing on that number, but I bet I'm close to the cost of an airline ticket. And when the economy adjusted and things got better, they never took that stuff away. We still pay the baggage fees. We still pay those baked in energy, adjustments and whatnot from a crisis that was almost 20 years ago. So that we have to deal with that aspect of it too.
Yeah.
And that, by the way, is airlines all doing it you've got a collusion market problem, I think.
Well, I mean, the corporatocracy in this country is no different than the federal government itself. Once you give them a little bit of power, they're not going to, concede it back to the people. Same thing with prices. Once these grocery stores are able to set that price and have people adapt to it and accept it, so to speak, they're not going to come down on those prices. I mean, maybe we'll see.
Yeah. And I would say, I would just go a little bit further and say it's literally the same problem because our government is public-private partnership.
I know. I agree with you on that. I was just, speaking as it's supposed to be, not as it actually is. So this is another big story that's out right now. And I'm not going to go too crazy on this because I still think there's a lot of, bad information coming out about this, but apparently this Bella 1, vessel that we talked about like 2 weeks ago off the coast of Venezuela that the U.S. was chasing. They wanted to board this ship because it had a fake Guyanan flag, and then they lost sight of it for a little bit, I guess, and they painted a Russian flag on it. Like the crew went out and painted a Russian flag, and now I guess like something's going on here. I don't know, but Russia it's supposedly it's off the coast of Ireland right now, and Russia is sending a sub to go intercept it in hopes that, I don't know, maybe we have a standoff over the Bella 1. I think they changed its name to like the Marinara 1 or something now.
In the middle of the conflict, they changed the name of the ship?
Yeah. Let me see if they... I didn't really want to... I wasn't going to cover this story. I wasn't going to get too in-depth in it. Yeah. The tanker changed its name to the Marinara and switched its registration to Russia, the journal said, according to, I guess this is the Wall Street Journal that reported.
What was its registration before?
Guyana. They say it was false flagged originally. It says Russia's deployed. I'll just read through this real quick. Russia's deployed a submarine and other naval vessels to escort an empty, aging old tanker that has been trying to evade the U.S. blockade near Venezuela. The tanker, formerly known as Bella 1, has been evading interception since the Coast Guard attempted to board it in December. Following Washington's blockade of sanctioned oil shipments, Russia asked the U.S. to stop pursuing the vessel, citing 3 other U.S. officials. Russian Foreign Ministry said it was monitoring the situation surrounding the tanker, quote unquote, with concern, citing Russian state news agency RIA. U.S. SOCOM, which oversees military activities in Latin America, posted that, quote, it remains ready to support U.S. government agency partners in standing against sanctioned vessels and actors transiting through the region, but it did not mention the journal's report of the Russian submarine. The tanker changed its name. Donald Trump on Tuesday. U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday to refine and sell. That's an incomplete sentence, guys. Posted to refine and sell up to 50 million barrels of oil. Okay, so that's the story. So the story is that there's going to be a standoff around Marinara. Hopefully you get some spaghetti and meatballs with that too.
Mozzarella sticks is
and
where my head
sticks.
goes. Yeah.
100%. I will go to town on some mozzarella sticks. Or my wife so I'm Italian, and if I don't say it like an Italian, she like freaks out.
How do you say it like an Italian?
Mozzarella.
Mozzarella.
Or if you're Jersey Italian, you just cut off the vowel and say mozzarella.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does the same thing with ricotta. Like I say ricotta, but if you don't say ricotta or ricotta, and she won't order a pizza, I get a meatball and ricotta pie, and she won't order it. because she's like, I don't want to say it. It's embarrassing because you're Italian. I'm like, okay, whatever. Anyways, long story. The Marinera is now steaming off the coast of Ireland. It's going to be intercepted by Russian subs and U.S. vessels, and a lot of nothing is going to happen. That's the story.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like there's more to the story. I feel like there's a whole other Southern Command story about this tanker that is not, just this poor helpless refugee tanker seeking asylum, now identifies as Russian.
I got the chat fired up over. We're talking about global conflict in Venezuela, and I got the chat fired up over how to say mozzarella. By the way, the Jersey Italian thing is from The Sopranos. Remember when his wife chops the vowels and he's like, "Hey, don't go talking like you're some Jersey tie." It's from Sopranos. Don't get all.
Well, no, I mean, so my skepticism is because my husband, who is not Italian but grew up on Long Island, always said ricotta and mozzarella as well, because it was kind of a New York way to say, stemming from the Italian, derived from the vast number of Italians in New York, but that definitely predated The Sopranos. So for me.
All right. Let's keep going here. Real quick, we do have one more ad that we got to talk about.
Oh, also, it's not sauce, it's gravy, Brian.
No, it is definitely not gravy. I will fight you to my Boston.
Okay, you are fighting Icy One. You and Icy One are going to have a fight.
My Massachusetts Italian family and I fight about this nonstop. Like literally, we've had verbal heated arguments about whether it's sauce or gravy. It is sauce. It is sauce. Gravy is a type of sauce. If you have meat in it specifically, you can call it gravy. It's still a sauce. All right. They can cancel your accounts. They can freeze your cards. They can decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters now more than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. I am definitely all about that life.
You are definitely getting demolished on your position in the chat. I think that it's probably about 80-20 gravy to sauce.
Well, I'm probably more Sicilian than any of them, so whatever. It's okay. It's okay. More gravy, please. All right, let's jump into our next global conquest.
Spetzel said gravy is either brown or cream, and I generally agree with that. Brown gravy or sawmill gravy, and sawmill gravy is disgusting, just for the record.
Sawmill? What?
The white
Can't have her on the show, guys. Cannot have her on the show.
Fact.
You don't like biscuits and gravy?
No cap.
You're from Georgia?
Mm-hmm.
What the hell? That is like pure blasphemy.
Have you ever seen it in the pot? Have you ever seen that gravy in the pot?
Oh, man. All right, let's get into this story here. Talking about the Don Road Doctrine and the continuation of the Great Expansion. Here we go. Oh, we got a Greenland series here.
I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is covered with Russian and Chinese ships all over the place. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And Denmark is not going to be able to do it, I can tell you. You know what Denmark did recently to boost up security in Greenland? They added one more dog sled. It's true. They thought that was a great move.
What would the justification be for a claim to Greenland? What would the
Oh, I don't want to talk about Greenland now. I just say this. We need Greenland from the standpoint of national security. And the European Union needs us to have it. And they know that.
All right. So adding a little comedy to the mix there, they've added one sled in their expansion of their defense efforts. So there's like this ongoing thing now where President Trump, everybody's back in the freak out about Greenland, which, by the way, we're already off of Venezuela, I guess. And Trump, the idea of potentially using military to take Greenland, he's proposed buying Greenland, which is the most likely. I mean, anybody that's watched Trump for more than 5 minutes would know that this guy's not going to go in and invade Greenland. There's only 30,000 people there. We have more than that on Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. So that would be a very, very quick effort there. I got a couple more segments, but I'll let you jump in if you want to comment on that before.
I mean, it's hard not to think about the resource implications of both of these ostensible land acquisitions, right? Yeah, huge. And not just from an oil standpoint, from a rare earths standpoint. And rebuilding the infrastructure in Venezuela that's going to be game changing for the region. It's looking more and more like we are entering a multipolar world, and the key powers in each of those regions is going to be managing the resources of that region. I don't know how I feel about that. I'll tell you, my immediate reaction is to not feel great about it, because I don't know that Donald Trump or the U.S. federal government needs to be managing all of the resources in this hemisphere. That being said, the way we've done things to date has not worked, and I definitely think that the U.S. has a right to secure its sovereignty by looking at the Greenland is it's not just a resource dense location. It is strategically important from a national security standpoint. I think Venezuela is in a similar posture. The difference, as you mentioned, is that you have a mass population in one of those places, and in the other one you have a very small group of people. So I think one is probably going to be easier than the other.
100%. Also, we have far less Greenlanders in the United States than we do. We don't have the Tren de Aragua of Greenland yet. Maybe one day we'll have like Eskimo gangs that will come out. So let's go ahead and play this clip here of Stephen Miller and Jake Tapper talking about Greenland. And
it has been the formal position of the U.S. government since the beginning of this administration, frankly, going back into the previous Trump administration, that Greenland should be part of the United States. The president has been very clear about that. That is the formal position of the U.S. government.
Right, but can you say that military action against Greenland is off the table?
It wouldn't be military action against Greenland. The Greenland has a population of 30,000 people, Jake. The real question is, by what right does Denmark assert control over Greenland? What is the basis of their territorial claim? What is their basis of having Greenland as a colony of Denmark? The United States is the power of NATO. For the United States to secure the Arctic region, to protect and defend NATO and NATO interests, obviously Greenland should be part of the United States. And so that's a conversation that we're going to have as a country. That's a process we're going to have as a community of nations.
So you can't take it off the table that the U.S. would use military force to seize Greenland. You can't take it off the table.
Jake, I understand you're trying very hard to, which again, is your job. I respect it. It's great to get exactly the headline, right? That catchy headline.
I'm trying to get an answer
that says Miller refuses to rule out the United States should have Greenland as part of the United States. There's no need to even think or talk about this in the context that you're asking of a military operation. Nobody's going to fight the United States militarily over the future of Greenland.
One last question, Stephen.
Oh, man.
I like Stephen Miller a lot.
I do too. I said yesterday he had the first thing that he said that was a little bit concerning. Yesterday he was kind of touting the Monroe Doctrine more as like American imperialism, which I understand. Western Hemisphere, I understand all that. I just didn't like the way that it was worded. But he was trying to get a reaction out of Jake Tapper, and he did. he was successful in ticking him off. So I'm with him on that. But what he's saying,
I want to talk about the Monroe Doctrine. So don't move off that point real quickly, because the Monroe Doctrine was originally correct. Fact check me if I'm wrong on this. And obviously, history was written by the winners, whatever. But the Monroe Doctrine was intentionally or was originally intended to prevent other nations from other nations' imperialism within the Americas. Right.
European specifically. European.
Right. So actually restoring the original intention of that, because it was perverted, inverted, and turned into a reason for U.S. imperialism around the world, Western imperialism around the world. But is there value in restoring and reorienting that doctrine? I think so, particularly as we're looking at things like Belt and Road and China's influence in the region, and whatever you believe about China, they shouldn't be that close to this is the same reason that Russia, I mean, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the main reasons that Russia is like, no, you're not putting NATO on my border. It's the same problem that we're facing within our region of the multipolar world, and I'm fine with it. I think you can make the whole world America, and I'd be fine with it, because America.
We've been, throughout World War II, we were the ones propping up Greenland's defense, because Greenland was a strategic asset in the German U-boats and thwarting that. Currently, it's right in the track for a lot of the Russian shipping lanes and everything else like that. So it's a good, kind of LPOP listening post outpost. Observation post. It's a good place for the U.S. to be set up to kind of monitor what's going on in our hemisphere from the Far East or the Eastern Bloc. I don't understand why they have such a large, we have territorial islands all over the Pacific, and are we gonna give those up? That's a valid question, right? Under the Monroe Doctrine,
we're just calling it that now.
That's what everybody's calling it. He coined the term, and we're running with it. It's a great term. I laughed out loud when I heard it. But so under that policy, national security strategy plan with regional influence, would we be ceding those territories in Asia? We have a lot of I can't even think of them all off the top of my head, but we have a lot of small little territorial islands. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when that approaches. But
if the multipolar world is going to be a reality, we'd almost have to, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we're going to acknowledge the regional spheres of influence, then that's got to go. It's got to go.
And if we're doing that, if we're giving away islands and territorial assets that we have in the other regions, then I say we're definitely taking Greenland and probably Venezuela and maybe even Canada. Look out, Canada. But you're not going to be a state. You'll be a territory, and you'll have your own territorial governance, and you cannot vote for president.
Yeah. And don't worry, you won't have to do all the crazy British crap you have to do now for the
we promise you will not have to swear an oath of allegiance to the king.
For the monarchy, yeah. So Denmark's prime minister was not too pleased with this. This is a translation of her comments yesterday.
Firstly, I believe that the American president should be taken seriously when he says that he wants Greenland. But I also want to make it clear that if the United States chooses to attack another NATO country militarily, then everything stops. That is including our NATO and thus the security that has been provided since the end of the Second World War. I believe in democracy and I believe in the international rules. Of course, I also believe that you do not change borders by force either one way or another. It is not only the position of Denmark and the Danish kingdom, fortunately, of Europe too. So I hope that the people will also take note of the once again significant European support that we are receiving.
So just a quick little side note right here, talking about how the U.S. we'd be on our own and all this. Essentially, this is actually the epitome.
We're okay with that, right? We've always been on our own when it comes to our European allies.
This is the epitome of the Monroe Doctrine right here, keeping keeping European influence out of the Western Hemisphere, specifically speaking of Greenland, we could have a whole discussion about the influence over the United States itself, and obviously Canada, which British territory. Hello, the writing's on the wall. Canada, you're next.
Yeah.
You know how much Denmark contributed to NATO annually last year?
How much?
$9 billion for defense.
I mean, how are they meeting their 2% or 3% target or whatever?
So they are actually, I think it's 5%, isn't it? They're at 2.37% in 2024. Oh no, the target was 2%. Yeah, it was 2%. But it's not the the percentage that I'm concerned about, or that I'm referring to here. The thing is like don't step up to the big dogs when you're just it's like you've seen the meme online with the Chihuahua that's got the sliding glass door behind him, and he's barking at the pit bull on the other side, and he's just ferocious. And then they open the door and he turns back and looks at the camera like, "What the hell did you do that for?" And he shuts his mouth.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it is ill-advised to underestimate the European royal families, because if what a lot of us believe is going on is actually going on, they are at their most dangerous because they are cornered and faced with losing all of their power that they've held for centuries.
Yeah, I agree with that. I still don't think that the EU has far, like it's not even close, more to lose with the US, with the dissolution of NATO, or the US backing out of NATO. It's not
That'd
even
be great
close.
for us. Be a net huge win for us. It'd be a win for our sovereign alliance allies.
Yes.
And that's why these people are dangerous, because it's done. As I do believe that as Burning Bright and the DPH guys say, the deals are done. This is already decided. We're watching the execution of a structured reordering of the rules-based, the international rules-based order. It's over, and things like that Denmark lady feels like a death rattle.
So we have another clip here that I want to play, kind of a little bit more direct to the point than the Prime Minister of Denmark's comments there. But this is the chairman of Austria's NATO Enlargement Committee, because that's a thing. The NATO Enlargement Committee, that should never be a thing. Remember, not an inch more east, says James Baker in 1990 something or other.
Not 1 inch to the east.
Not 1 inch to the east, and
certainly not right up on our border. But here we are.
Now we've got like three NATO countries on Russia's border. They're trying for a fourth. Yeah, nothing to see here. You can already tell this guy's a globalist just by that dumbass pin that he's got on his lapel there. Look at that. What the frick? I don't, that's just bizarre. He's got like every EU NATO country flag on there.
Looks like Russia's flag is in that too, though. Hang on, pull it up. It might be. It's probably one of those other ones. Maybe it's France or something.
The United States appears to be all the way at the bottom, which you would think is a sign of disrespect, but in reality, it's propping
What is the shape?
Oh, you know what that one is right there? Can you see my mouse? No, you can't.
No.
You see the V at the very top?
Mm-hmm.
You see the point of the V?
Ukraine.
He's got the damn Ukraine flag on there. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, let's play this clip.
If you take it, we take every single base of the Americans, from Aviano to Ramstein, from Romania to all the other military bases, will be confiscated, and you will lose it. And the whole position of American power since World War II, if you take Greenland, you have to leave. It's very simple, Mrs. Miller. This is the leverage we have. You need these bases for global power protection. You won't have it. And we can defend ourselves very well, and we will do that without the U.S. nuclear shield, without the U.S. troops in Europe, without the American bases. We will simply run these bases ourselves, and we run your boys home into Chicago and Ohio. And goodbye. You go extreme, we go extreme as well. Be sure about it.
Logan, Flogan, Noggin, Mogan. Yeah, we're super scared.
Dude, everything he just said,
we all want it.
Everything he just said, sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah. You're going to lose your global power projection. Yeah, your region is Russia's global power projection now, guys.
Stephen Miller's wife put this on X. Hilarious. Map of Greenland with a big old U.S. flag over it. Yeah, I mean, look, the guy is the chairman of Austria's NATO Enlargement Committee. I don't think he's not Mark Rutte. He's not von der Leyen over at the EU. What he says means practically nothing, but it is good that he's saying this because he's putting that mindset, that thought process out there, and he is totally bending the knee to President Trump without even knowing that he's bending the knee. Like, read his national security strategy, and everything you just said would align with Trump's national security strategy. Like, that's the whole point of his plan. And he's just like, that's a threat. We're going to leave. We're going to leave NATO. We're going to kick you out.
Us too. Yeah, no, you're going to lose your global power projection, and we can defend ourselves very well. Thank you very much. Oh, okay, I'll pause. Why haven't you been then? Why has President Trump had to force you into paying your agreed upon fair share of the NATO defense budget? Why is it that you have not been? Why are we always called to come in and do the things and all of the defensive things? Oh my God, Russia. We have to guard against Russia. We're called in to solve all these problems for you, Europe. And you're like, oh no, we can defend ourselves very well. Thank you very much. Sweet. Let's watch. Let's do it.
We pay more. We contribute. The United States. The United States contributes more to NATO than every other NATO country combined. And it's I'm pretty sure it's by a lot.
For now.
Yeah. All right. So let's jump into just real quick. I want to play this clip just because I think it's kind of hilarious to watch the walking male part, Mark Kelly, floundering around as Secretary of War Pete Hegseth rescinded his military retirement pension after his seditious conspiracy to subvert the lawful orders of the President of the United States. But I said it's an illegal order. No, you didn't. Well, you did, but you also didn't.
Just like to remind everyone that no one is above the law.
Exactly. Check this out. This was him on Jon Stewart, who actually pushed back a little bit, interestingly enough.
It's not complicated. If a reasonable person would think that this thing that they are asking me to do is illegal, you have an obligation. It's not an option. You have an obligation not to follow those orders.
So are the boat strikes illegal?
Well, so I've been asking this question for a long time. I'm on the Armed Services and the Intelligence Committee.
Right.
They have some complicated legal rationale.
You're a lawmaker. You're a lawmaker.
I was just about to say, if your answer to that question is not a definitive yes, you had no business putting out that video.
No, not only the video. He is a lawmaker. They have some complicated legal framework for military strike. You make the legal frameworks, dickhead. You're a lawmaker, and you don't get to operate in the the laws are crazy. No, that's literally your purview. That's your job. And making the video, the video was intended to disrupt the armed services, to create chaos and confusion in the moment where orders are being executed, which is incredibly dangerous from a military standpoint, that you are now saying, some of these orders might be unlawful. When you're in the moment of go, no go, and you're making a decision about whether you're going to follow an order, you need to question it. That's what that guy said on that video. And those other people said, the seditious six said on that video, that is sedition. I think they should be punished to the full extent of the law. Do not let these scumbag parasites say, there's these really complicated legal frameworks that we don't really know what to do with, because they're the freaking lawmakers.
All right, let's keep going here.
40 pages of why these are legal. It's questionable at best. And by the way, at first it was fentanyl, then it was cocaine, then it was about regime change, then it was about oil.
Oh.
I understand.
So,
but do you see my point? You yourself
I totally
are saying,
see your point.
I don't.
But
I
our
don't know.
point Our point is to members of the military who don't get reminded of this often. When something is clearly unlawful, you have an obligation not to follow those orders. It's a pretty simple thing. And we've seen in our history multiple times when even under those circumstances, members of the military have done stuff that was clearly over the line. We did not want that to happen.
Under the Obama administration, they did extrajudicial killings of an American citizen through drone strikes. Like we criticize that. That's my point is there's enough gray area in some of these actions.
Okay. So
exactly what they're doing. Free Think Mind said that he knew exactly what he was doing when they sent out that message, the Seditious Six. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, if they didn't preface in that message, and again, like if they would have just come out and said, "Hey, military, you don't have to obey unlawful orders," it's weird. Okay, they come from a position of as somebody in the military that may not be, trained on U.S. civics and how our government works. You might look at that and be like, "Oh, a senator's telling me this. I need to listen to this." No, you don't. They have no jurisdiction. They have no authority in your chain of command. They are not in your chain of command. They have no authority over you. They cannot issue you orders. That's all exclusive to your commander in chief, your president. When they wrote that, or when they, put out that video, the thing that was killer to them, and this is the thing that needs to be just beaten down, they told the military that the president is pitting you against U.S. citizens, and they told the military that the threats to the Constitution are no longer abroad, they're here at home. Yep. That's the thing that's key to that seditious conspiracy in that video. If they had just come out and said, "Hey, you don't have to obey lawful orders. We just want to remind you, by the way, I'm the CIA spook, Alyssa Slotkin, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a CIA spook, and I'm putting myself now in with the military." Please don't ever do that. You've already permeated yourself through the military enough. You don't need to make it public like that. Well, actually, let's make it public. Actually, there was one other thing I wanted to play, and I thought it was funny talking about
a bunch of people in chat are asking why these 6 people are still walking around breathing free air, and I think it's an excellent question.
I agree 100%. So last night we were covering the book, and there's this new revelation that Cartel de los Soles is no longer real. Or it's not that it's not real, it's just not what we're told it is.
Colonel Towner has said all along that it wasn't real.
Exactly. She said all along. I mean, going all the way back to the first conversation I ever had with her about Venezuela. I think it was Alpha and I. It might have been you and me on Why We Vote.
Yeah, it's so to me, saying that it's not real is not that can't be the answer, because it has power projection. At least in this storytelling season right now, and within the State Department cables, and within the justification for action records. Right. So we're going to go in and do this thing. We're going to go overthrow the government of Bolivia or whatever it is. Right. Whatever the thing is, they have in their document record. And Colonel Towner talked about how a lot of this stuff is fabricated exactly for this purpose. But they have the justification for why they're doing the things that they do. And within that document record, the Cartel de los Soles exists. Now, it was created by the CIA to be a big bad that we can go fight, so we can, restore democracy or whatever in the region, stop the drug cartels and restore democracy. We're not dealing with the Sinaloa cartel, right? Those guys are small potatoes. The Cartel de los Soles is the thing. That's what we're being told by, the people pushing this story. And when it comes down to it, it's a creation of the CIA. I would argue it is the CIA. I think it has enough power projection that it can't just not exist. But if it exists in any meaningful way, it exists as the CIA. So we have CIA, admitted CIA operatives now telling us it's very, very important to go fight the Cartel de los Soles, and the Cartel de los Soles is the CIA, in my opinion, based on the information available.
Yeah. Yeah. So just quick notes, because I'm not going to go through this whole article, but the Cartel de los Soles originated.
You're not sharing. If you're meaning to be sharing, you're not sharing.
Oh, I'm just giving you the guys. I'm just going to read the cliff notes on this. Cartel de los Soles originated in the 90s as Venezuelan media slang, mocking high-ranking military officials who wore sun insignia. Okay. The original 2020 indictment referenced the cartel 32 times, portraying it as a structured criminal entity led by Maduro. But the new indictment mentions it only twice, describing it as a system of clientelism rather than a formal organization. Despite the admission, the DOJ continues to charge Maduro with narco-terrorism, conspiracy, drug trafficking, and other offenses, now linking him to a broader network of corruption and collusion, including groups like FARC, ELN, and the Sinaloa cartel. Yeah, so anyways, it's no longer a thing, so we can stop talking about the cartel. How long till we figure out trend?
Oh, I don't think we should stop talking about it. I think we should talk about it as exactly what it is, and then the people responsible for it should be rolled up and tried for treason at that point, because that is treason.
How long till Trinidad gets outed as a CIA front as well? Like, all of these organizations that we hear about over there are all either CIA assets, CIA infiltrated. It's just absolutely.
And what you actually mean, I think, is how long until Tren de Aragua gets publicly acknowledged in the legacy media and by the institutions of power that it, as a CIA front, because it's already outed as a CIA front. Incredible researchers like Colonel Towner and others have done the research on these entities, and they are created. It's thesis, antithesis, synthesis is what we're seeing with these, is particularly profoundly kind of like we're watching it in an incubator and seeing what's happening in South and Central America.
Yeah, there was something I wanted to add to that, and I can't think of it off the top of my head now. It escaped me, but I don't know. All right, so that's all I wanted to talk about on that front. Let's jump into some J6 stuff, because I've got a pretty interesting take on a story that came out yesterday. Hillary Clinton posted this on X 5 years ago today, and that's her actual voice right there, by the way. 5 years ago today, Donald Trump urged his supporters to attack Congress and the Capitol over a proven lie. More than 140 police officers were injured. Trump then pardoned the attackers. He betrayed his oath and his country, and we won't forget it. Comments turned
We
off.
haven't forgotten Benghazi either, you criminal scumbag.
I think, in light of President Trump going after the BBC for their absolutely heinous editing of the clip, to making it sound like he's saying, go fight at the Capitol, that thing. I think he should sue Hillary Clinton over this, because she says Donald Trump urged his supporters to attack Congress and the Capitol. He never did that. He absolutely never did that.
But I'll tell you, the reason that she can say that without fear of defamation is because it was an established fact in the 14th Amendment trial of President Trump. That is where we got the oath-breaking insurrectionists line. And you know my position on this, Brian. The reason for that finding is because the president's lawyers shit the bed. They did not fight the findings and the information that was in the J6 committee report. They only claimed it was political and it couldn't be looked at. And so a lot of the details inside of the J6 committee report, which was a political fabrication, stood as found facts in that trial. So she can probably say that without fear of defamation. And in my opinion, it's because the president's lawyers didn't do their job here in Colorado.
All right, let's I want to jump into this clip here. Pelosi freaking out, melting down, spreading more mis and disinformation. She looks horrible.
I could never have had the idea that a president of the United States would incite an insurrection on the Capitol of the United States, the symbol of democracy throughout the world, on the Constitution of the United States, which he took, and we all took an oath to uphold, on the Congress of the United States, who that day had the congressional responsibility to accept the results, to certify the results of the election. The list goes on and on. And today, that president who incited that insurrection continues to lie about what happened that day.
You've been lying
On my
about
way
what
over
happened.
here, I saw on TV that he was claiming that we did not ask for the National Guard. I thank Representative Hinziger and as well as
Representative who?
No, nobody knows.
I think she said Kinzinger, but
Representative Hinziger and as well as Elaine Loria for setting the record straight and other testimony that you've heard here. For over
Was this
3
yesterday?
hours, we begged
I
him to
think so.
send the National Guard.
yeah.
He never did it. He took joy in not doing it. It was savoring that. And right
You
now,
were supposed to
he was
call in
saying
the
on
National
TV
Guard, Kitten.
today, I wanted to send it. They just wouldn't do it. His own Secretary of Defense, acting Secretary of Defense, testified under oath against what the president is saying today. Maybe not in public, but under oath.
By the way,
really?
you
Can we
can't-
see those transcripts?
By the
Dan?
way, you can't see those tapes. You can't see
Yeah.
the tapes. You can see transcripts, which can be easily manipulated.
Do you think, can we follow up question, Nance? Where's Yogananda Pittman and what was her role on January 6th? What was the Capitol Police Intelligence Unit doing in the run up to January 6th? And why was Capitol Police Chief Stephen Son not in the loop, even though he was the on paper authority of the day, your patsy that you were setting up?
Yeah.
Truth is coming on this thing. We're not letting this go. We're not letting the coup of November 3rd, 2020 go. We're not letting the cover up of the coup on January 6th, 2021 go. We're not letting the cover up of the coup, which is the January 6th committee in which you all committed treason. We're not letting that go either, Nance. So TikTok.
We have responsibility, Terry. We did not have any accountability for what was
My
going
favorite
on
clip.
there, and we should have. This is ridiculous. You're going to ask me in the middle of the thing when they've already breached the inaugural stuff that
The inaugural stuff?
should we call the Capitol Police? I mean, the National Guard? Why weren't the National Guard there to begin with?
They thought that they had sufficient
That
resources.
is not a question of how they have been. They don't know. They clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more. We have.
I take responsibility for not having them prepare for more. You've had numerous people who have testified that Donald Trump not only said, how many National Guard do you need? When they said how many they would like on standby, he said, are you sure you don't need more? Are you sure you don't need more? I'm so sick of that lie. We don't have to rehash that.
It was a setup. The whole thing, that whole thing was a setup. And Trump was damned if you do, damned if you don't, by the way, because what they wanted him to do and what they've accused him was that he didn't overstep into Nancy Pelosi's authorities, constitutional authorities on that day. He didn't go in there and assume her authorities. And in the 14th Amendment trial, they made the argument that because of that, because he didn't overstep the congressional authorities on the day, he was enabling the rioters and he was enabling an insurrection because he didn't, deploy the National Guard anyway, even though it wasn't his call on the day. So if he had deployed the National Guard, it would have been, well, he's usurping the authority of Congress. And this is not your call, President Trump. This is Nancy Pelosi's call. And you're only sending them because you're trying to enable an insurrection. And then by not sending them, you're enabling an insurrection. Guess who had the authority to do it, should have done it, didn't do it, waited until it was much too late to do anything about the breach happening. Those guys, not only were the National Guard not that far away, but you had Customs and Border Patrol like a few blocks away. And those guys were told to stand down. They were not sent to respond to the Capitol, to what was going on at the Capitol. The whole thing was contrived. It was a cover up of a coup. And that's going to come out. It's already out. That is going to be prosecuted in my hope.
Yeah, Harmeet Dillon yesterday said, that the statute of limitations continues on. Every time the conspiracy is prolonged, it continues on.
So Nancy Pelosi's comments yesterday just bought us a new statute of limitations.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep.
Thank you. In fact, that's a great point. I should go repost that and say thanks for resetting the statute of limitations, Nance. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. You should have laid off the Tito's and North Georgia Dog says, repost your interview with Tarek Johnson on X so you can get eyes on it again. I'm actually going to do a stream tonight before, because I know our first show on Badlands in the evening is shipped tonight at 8. So I don't think we have anything at 7. So I'm going to do a stream tonight at like 6:30 and rehash some of the J6 stuff, because the story we're going to talk about here in a second, I can go a lot more in depth than we can on here. Naturally, Nikki says, CannCon giving Zach a run for his money with his killery voice. There you go. I want to play this clip here. Now, look, I know I can be the first to admit when I didn't know something that I should have known. Did you ever know that Judicial Watch got evidence that the CIA was involved in January 6th?
I did not.
Okay, good. So I don't feel completely left out on this. Apparently, this is an old clip, but there's an update on it we got. But I'm going to play this a segment of this because I didn't know this, and that's shocking to me.
No, we filed the lawsuit in August. We asked for the records in June, so we've been waiting almost a year for these records, and it took a federal lawsuit to get them out to us. And so we got these ATF text messages that detail the CIA's involvement. And there are kind of two sets of text messages, and they're very interesting to read because they do talk about, as I say, we were asking about the reports of shots fired. The only shots were fired were the shots fired, at least in the Capitol, the shot fired at poor Ashley Babbitt by Lieutenant Michael Byrd, U.S. Capitol police officer who, in our view, unlawfully shot her, illicitly shot her for no good reason, popped out, shot her, dead. And we're representing her family in a wrongful death action right now, a federal lawsuit against the U.S. government for $30 million. So that here you can see the ATF, basically all these panic text messages about the disturbance on January 6th. But what was most interesting in them to me was the involvement of the Secret Service. So here's the first text message detailing the involvement of the Central Intelligence Agency, not the Secret Service, the CIA. Several CIA dog teams on standby.
I don't know what is NGA, National Guard. I don't know what NGA.
Mm-hmm.
Look that up. What would NGA be in government bureaucracies? But yeah, 7 NGA dog teams, 2 ATF, and several CIA dog teams on standby. We'll keep going here.
Near the southwest area of the Capitol.
Oh, pause it for a second. This says National Geospatial Intelligence Agency.
No way.
Yeah.
There's no other NGA references in terms of...
So my question was, what is NGA in terms of government law enforcement / military response? And it says the acronym NGA in a government context refers to the National Geospatial, and it's Geospatial - Intelligence Agency. It is a unique combination of U.S. Department of Defense Combat Support Agency and a principal member of the intelligence community.
Wow. Elise,
God, that makes me angry.
Well, Elise says it could mean non-governmental agency, NGA. I don't.
We have non-governmental agency dog teams. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think, wow, that's interesting in and of itself. And he doesn't mention that here. That's fascinating that you would have the National Geospatial involved in that. All right, let's keep going.
What were they doing there? Why were they on standby? Were they called ahead of time? I don't know. First time we're hearing about it. And then there were technicians sent to where those pipe bombs were. CIA bomb techs. Why were they down there? Now typically the CIA is not supposed to be involved in domestic operations like that. So what was the purpose of their being involved? I mean, this is the DC area. We don't need extra folks like the CIA being involved here typically. Was there a foreign intelligence component that they were investigating? Mm-hmm. What else did they do? I don't know.
Ran a color revolution operation on January 6th. That's what happened. is that there was a color revolution operation to solidify the steal of November 3rd, and then they covered up the color revolution with the J6 committee.
So Tom Fitton puts this out, and again, this is new information for me, and apparently Ash as well. And then he puts this out. This is the update that we got there. CIA tells the court that it needs 4 more years to search for records on what its people were doing at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th.
Nope.
Yeah, that is unacceptable. They, you know how we always say, like in terms
they
of
want to wait 4 more years means we're waiting until we have more, friendly people in the positions of declassification, right? So we're going to wait until after the Trump administration is over until we're going to declassify. And then guess what? We're not going to declassify.
They're just kicking the can down the road.
Yep. Well, they're trying to wait him out, which is what both Colonel Towner said on our show and that Promethean Action lady, Susan Kokinda, who I think is those guys are putting out great content right now. If you're not watching those Prometheus updates on YouTube, you should. But she's been saying the same thing. They're the international rules-based order is trying to wait out Trump 2.0. And it's not going to work, but we see the evidence of that everywhere. Things like this.
Yes. I want to. So we're gonna take a quick break here, and before we do that, so the next story is the story that I'm really. I saw it this morning, and I was like, "Holy shit!" There's way more to this story than just what we're seeing as the headline. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get a word from our sponsor real quick. Ash, you want to talk about our good friends over at CBDistillery? Oh,
what if your only resolution this year was to get better sleep? Just imagine how much more energy you'd have. You'd handle stress better. Pretty much all your goals would be easier, right? Well, that's why the smart way to start 2026 is with CBD from CBDistillery. Get this. Over 90% of CBD customers say they sleep better with CBD. That's tough to beat. And when you sleep better, everything feels easier. And CBDistillery has options for more than just sleep. We have solutions for stress relief, mood, pain after workouts. You can shop by benefit, so it's easy to find what you're looking for. Everything from CBDistillery is premium quality, third-party tested, and free of artificial dyes and fillers. They have over 2 million happy customers and a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you are ready to start the year off right, go to CBDistillery.com and use our code BADLANDS for 25% off. CBDistillery.com, code BADLANDS, CBDistillery.com, code BADLANDS. Specific product availability depends on individual state regulations. And Brian,
I love the gummies. All right, guys, are you worrying about those upcoming credit card bills after the holidays? If you're a homeowner, there's no better time than now to call American Financing and wipe out that debt, eliminate the stress, and set yourself up for a strong 2026. The Fed dropped rates for the 4th time in December. American Financing can help you access that equity in your home at an interest rate in the low 5s. You heard that right, in the low 5s. That is a much lower rate than the average 20% or more credit card rate. American Financing is saving their customers an average of $800 a month. That's like getting a $10,000 raise to start the new year. There's no upfront fees and no obligations to see how much you can save. And they're closing some refis in as low as 10 days and even delaying 2 mortgage payments. American Financing, Colorado's home for home loans. Call today, 866-889-8121. Again, that's 866-889-8121 or AmericanFinancing.net/Badlands. NMLS 182334, MLSConsumerAccess.org. APR for rates in the 5s start at 6.196. For well-qualified borrowers, call 866-889-8121 for details about the credit costs and terms, or AmericanFinancing.net/Badlands. All right, so let's get into this next story here. And by the way, smash that thumbs up if you have not done so already. And from Town Hall, on January 6th, questions emerge about Michael Byrd's taxpayer-funded Maryland daycare. These are all the rage right now. Michael Bird has been running an unaccredited daycare center with his wife from their home in Maryland. Maryland has pulled in $190 million as a state, not Michael Bird by himself, in funding from Health and Human Services. This is an expose put out by Paul Sperry of RCA.
$190 million.
I think it's way more than that, but it's $190 million a year, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's probably more than that, but
it's a teeny tiny little state.
Yeah. So it says Bird's daycare is unaccredited, and a lot of people have been saying, well, it's unaccredited, so it can't get federal funding. Yeah. False. According to Maryland state government, accreditation is optional and merely a sign that a daycare has demonstrated quote unquote high quality, but it is not a requirement for federal funding. Jump down here. Another thing somebody pointed out.
Who set that law? Who made it? Was it somebody like Mark Kelly? No doubt.
Probably. Another ex-user pointed out that it appears the daycare license has been forfeited, but again, that's not the same thing as whether or not they're licensed as a daycare. That's just whether or not the name on their LLC is lapsed. I'm sure anybody that's owned a small business, if you don't make your filing every year, they just take away your name essentially. All your accreditations and other licenses don't get revoked. According to the Department of Education Office of Child Care, the daycare has an open license and only minor inspection violations related to paperwork that have all been corrected. The Department of Education, OCC, shows an open and active license for that child care. Now, a couple things. So this is Michael Bird, the man that shot Ashley Babbitt on January 6th. First and foremost, hold on. Am I getting off base here? Hold on. I am. I want to jump into an article that I wrote back in December of 2024. So last year I wrote this article. My internal emails reveal that Democrats bowing to Lieutenant Michael Bird's demands after he killed Ashley Babbitt, including allocating him funds for fallen or wounded officers.
So that's kind of weird, right? We're bowing to he's making demands. This guy murders a woman. The only person that is acknowledged to have died on the day, there were 4 other people that died. They were all Trump supporters, at least according to the story. They aren't acknowledged. There's a bunch of lies told about Capitol police officers dying. That shit never happened, but nobody, wants to correct the record on that. But this guy is known to have on recording, known to have shot Ashley Babbitt, and he's making demands of the people demanding accountability for this, the investigators, the prosecutors, the people with the statutory authority. The criminal being investigated is making demands. This guy's CIA.
Very well could be. And after the Tom Fitton clip that I started with, it is kind of interesting. So yeah, to your point there, this is Steve Marchese, who was the clerk and subcommittee staff director and for the legislative branch and committee on appropriations. And he said this on November 18th, 2021. He writes, and I don't know who Elizabeth Lapham is. I mentioned it in my article. And again, I'm going to go through this tonight on my personal channel. So rumble.com/CannCon. It'll probably be like around 6:30. Lieutenant Michael Bird is very upset with how he's being treated. He wants us to figure this out now. Sorry to dump this on you. So that's just a little sidebar right there when Ash, is talking about him making demands. I do want to jump down here because, I summarize the article in like some bullet points down here. And again, I'm going to go through this more tonight. So according to Representative Barry Loudermilk, who is now chairing the J6 subcommittee right now, the Republican-led, we'll get into that in a second. Now Captain Michael Bird, because he got promoted after that, he has been previously charged with recklessly discharged his firearm. He wasn't charged. He recklessly discharged his firearm at a fleeing vehicle and lied about it to investigators. This was a really bizarre story. Really, really bizarre story. Again, we'll cover this tonight. He accused a police officer of being racist at a high school football game after a heated encounter that ended up he badge dropped on that.
When you're losing an argument, claim racism.
Racism. Yep.
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Left his service weapon for almost an hour in a public restroom in a U.S. Capitol bathroom, which is a gun-free environment, meaning there was a Glock 22 on the kitchen's or the bathroom sink that anybody could have picked up in the Capitol for over an hour and could have gone and, mass shooting in the U.S. Capitol where nobody's supposed to be armed because they go through checkpoints except the police, but the police leave their gun behind. He's got 3 missing referrals from the OPR. I think that's the Office of Public Responsibility, Personnel Responsibility. It's the disciplinary office. 3 missing referrals that just disappeared.
That's crazy. How are the 3 missing referrals they're just always, it's probably just for like chewing gum or something, right? Nothing bad.
Oh, it was very bad. So here's where it gets interesting. As a result of, Byrd's actions on January 6th, it also says he shot an unarmed 5'1" Air Force veteran crawling through a window by herself with several officers in the background to back him up in detaining her. As a result, Byrd received a promotion to a captain. He received $36,000 in retention bonuses compared to other officers that only received $3,000.
Yogananda got pretty set up too, but
yeah, Berkeley police chief making $800,000+ a year. Also got extenuating circumstances to allow her to, or extraordinary circumstances to allow her to stay on with U.S. Capitol Police.
Double paid.
To get retirement, yeah. The U.S. Capitol Police set up a GoFundMe for Michael Byrd and raised for Michael Byrd $164,000. How much of that do you think was laundered money?
This is a payoff. It's just the payoff that's being laundered through seemingly legitimate benefits and payment options, but it doesn't make sense in the grand scheme of things. Michael Byrd was not a hero on that day. Nobody ever claimed that Michael Byrd was a hero on that day. It was overzealous and, active, but, the Capitol was under attack. So we can dismiss everything he did because he was just, trying to save Nancy Pelosi from the angry mob or whatever. I mean, the whole thing, man. And, if you haven't audience, if you haven't watched the Woo's News videos about this whole situation, I highly encourage you to.
Yeah. The next thing that he received, $21,000 in security upgrades to his home. Lodging
ended up to be a daycare. So
while they're doing that, he's being lodged at the Distinguished Visitors Quarters at Joint Base Andrews. Excuse me, not Joint Air Force Base, at Joint Base Andrews. That is where like dignitaries stay when they come to the United States. Like it's very exclusive. And I think he ended up being there for like 3 weeks. 3 weeks that he received lodging there.
Well, CIA debriefs can take a while, Brian.
Yes. He also received he was issued a U.S. Capitol Police shotgun for take-home personal defense, but he never received that because he failed his proficiency testing. So a veteran U.S. Capitol Police officer who left his Glock 22 in a bathroom failed proficiency testing for shotguns. So he wasn't allowed to take that home. He was given a 5-day-a-week telework agreement, meaning working from home, for which he failed to comply with and was subsequently given retroactive administrative leave for that period. He was instructed to skip fitness for duty evaluations for fear of failing and thus not being permitted to carry a firearm because he had to be, and this was in the report, he had to be able to carry a gun at home because he was receiving so many threats. And that's why they had the $21,000 security upgrades done to his house, because they were receiving so many threats. Then they also put out an internal request to fellow officers to donate their annual leave to Byrd once he got caught, violating the telework.
I hope they all told him to eat a bag of dicks.
So here's the big story that I think is kind of something that we could run with here.
Can you read the last paragraph of your article just before we move on to your theory here, which is a good one? I think your theory is a good one, but I think that last paragraph is important too.
Captain Byrd's treatment raises questions about whether it reflects preferential treatment or efforts to ensure his cooperation regarding sensitive matters relating to January 6th.
And that, I think, is very important because his cooperation is really, really important. You don't want that guy going off the reservation and saying what he knows, talking about the orders that he had on that day or what happened in the wake of him murdering Ashley Babbitt on that day. There, you know, a lot of people say Fedsurrection. A lot of people think this was orchestrated and contrived. If it was orchestrated and contrived, Michael Byrd was definitely in on it. Ensuring his compliance, cooperation, and that he keeps his mouth shut is very important. That does fit with what the treatment we saw him get.
Yeah. So in regards to the daycare, so he's been running this his wife has been running this at-home daycare. Did they disclose to the quote unquote children's parents, the customers, to the quote unquote customers, did they disclose to them that it was Michael Byrd's house and that there's threats out there against actions taken at his house and that the U.S. Capitol Police had to install $21,000 worth of security upgrades to the home because of these threats, and that Michael Byrd was given 12 times more than any other officer from the Wounded Officers Fund, Memorial Fund that was set up for J6 officers? He was not injured on that day. The only injury could be, the same injury they claim with veterans like myself, combat vets, that we have PTSD. So is it disclosed? I'm assuming he has PTSD because there's no other visible injury to Michael Byrd. Did they alert these parents that not only do you have somebody who just shot a 5'1" woman and killed her, but also allegedly has PTSD from doing so and also has a firearm? Because we know that they didn't let him take the fitness for duty evaluation because they were afraid he was going to fail and he needed to have a firearm to protect himself. Yeah. Do the parents of those children that are allegedly at this daycare, are they aware of all this? Because I don't think I would ever put my child in a situation like that, period.
Yeah. And the one thing that I didn't hear you mention is, are the parents aware that he's getting death threats, that he's at his house? So has a firearm that he doesn't know how to use and keeps failing the tests of, has PTSD. So you have a man who has PTSD and just murdered someone during the most notorious event of, the century, ostensibly. And there's, people in the woods just waiting to kill him. So send your kids to that daycare. But as I asked you, Brian, when you first told me about this, my immediate question is, are there actually children at this daycare? Do the kids and the parents that we're concerned about them having, informed consent about where they're placing their children, do those parents and children really exist?
100%. And, I know there's a lot of people that, kind of buy into the conspiracy. And I'm not going to say whether or not it's wrong that Ashley Babbitt wasn't actually killed that day, that Michael Byrd didn't shoot her that day. And I'll tell you what, I played around with it when it first came out, and you can clearly see, Michael Byrd drawn down on Ashley Babbitt, and the moment before he shoots, you can clearly see him turn the gun hard left before he pulls that trigger in what appears not to be aimed at her. I've also said if she was shot in the neck by a 45 caliber, Glock 22 is a 40 cal, I believe. Let me fact check myself. I believe it's a 40 cal. Yeah. So shot in the neck by a 40 cal handgun, close range. There's no splatter on the wall. There's nothing, no overspray, arterial spray, nothing. So, I mean, look, I'm not going to say one way or the other. The fact that Tom Fitton comes out and we see that expose there about the CIA's involvement and their willingness to, or their being at the ready on January 6th. I don't, and then the treatment of Michael Byrd afterwards, it's not beyond me. I don't.
Yeah, it does seem like a set was being managed in that whole thing. Again, check out the Woo's News videos about this. It's actual footage of the day and analysis that tells you things people don't want to hear because they're very invested in the stories that they've been told about that day. And that's on all sides. right? People are very invested in the stories that they've been told about what happened on January 6th. And it is very, very difficult to get people at this point to change their mind on that. But Janet Tinch said, in-home daycare owner operator here, everyone living in the home has to have a criminal background check on file. It would not be hard for them to get away with daycare fraud, but the people working in the system would have to have a hand in it at some level.
Ironically, let me go back to my article here. Ironically, you bring that up. Captain Byrd initially wrote DeBias, who was the general counsel for the U.S. Capitol Police, inquiring about, quote, the status of the memorial fund and the background check. In response, DeBias said, in regards to the memorial fund, we have all your information. We are working on an announcement. Okay, this isn't the part right here. Hold on. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Yeah, in September of 2021, Byrd attempted to buy a shotgun for his own personal protection. However, he failed the background check required under federal law. Federal law enforcement officer failed the background check required under federal law in September 2021. That's very strange. To the point that we were just making about the gunshot wound, and I see people in the chat talking about it. We just witnessed the Charlie Kirk assassination and saw what a gunshot wound to the neck does in terms of that. Well, there was another point to your point, the Woo's News, story. That was a perfect setup. I mean, everybody, the who's who of controversial figures around J6 were all in that little corridor,
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's just crazy how that happens. And the scene on the steps is the same. Like I put the link to the Woo's News channel in the chat. Go watch it if you haven't. Find the January 6th series. I think there's 3 parts. There's definitely 2. I think there's 3 parts of the January 6th series. Definitely go watch it.
And when you look at some of the circumstances surrounding Byrd, if you read that article again, I'm going to cover it tonight at 6:30, but some of the things prior to January 6th seemed like a setup. Like, this is a guy that we have this that we can, hold over his head.
Hold over whose head?
Michael Byrd's. The 3 OPR.
It doesn't sound like anybody's holding things over his head, Brian. It sounds like he's the one making demands.
No, to get him to do something. To get him to do. So they I think they had things that they could have potentially held over his head if need be, right? He does the thing on January 6th, whatever the thing is, whether he actually killed her or not. Then after the fact, he now has the leverage because he knows that this happened. This is far worse than anything I did previously. You can throw me under the bus for the shooting in front of his house. You can throw him under the bus for the 3 missing OPR reports. You can throw him under the bus for the Glock being left in the back.
You can throw him under the bus for the 3 missing OPR reports. That implies coordination. That exactly. Somebody inside OPR is covering that up, not Michael Byrd.
Exactly. So Byrd holds all the cards now, and that's why he's sending letters like that saying, hey, we're pretty ticked off right now. We're not happy. You keep changing the rules on us, is a direct quote from him. You keep changing the rules on us. We didn't know we were going to be playing this game. It's a lot of it's very interesting when you look at him. So we'll dive into that tonight. Let's move on here and talk about real quick this article from Politico. GOP-led Jan 6 committee sets first hearing for next week. And I love just the absolute partisan crap here. The new Republican-led panel tasked with investigating the J6 Capitol attack will hold its first hearing next week. This panel was still ironing out its list of witnesses, but Loudermilk anticipated the focus would be the pipe bombs left at the DNC and RNC headquarters the day before the Capitol riots. News of the hearing that would look at the events of that day through the lens of security failures rather than the attempts by Donald Trump and his supporters to overturn the results of the 2020 election was the culmination of a day-long campaign from Republicans to offer an alternative memory of the Capitol attack. That is pure propaganda through the lens of security failures rather than the Trump's effort to overturn the election, to offer an alternative memory of the Capitol attack.
No. Eat every last stick.
Yes. Yes, I'm with you. The White House published a website offering a largely false narrative, which we're going to make that claim without any evidence. We're not going to debunk anything. We're just going to say a largely false narrative. The White House published a website offering a largely false narrative of what unfolded at the Capitol 5 years ago, one that blamed then Speaker Pelosi and forcefully denied Trump's role in inciting the violence.
That time that he had that dog whistle that said peacefully and patriotically march down to the Capitol and make your voices heard peacefully and patriotically. And we were told by experts under oath that was a racist coded dog whistle to tell his supporters to sharpen your flagpoles and go take over the U.S. Capitol. That's what we were told. And now they're saying, forcefully denying Trump's role. You fabricated his role. You fabricated his role, and people bought that shit for years. But guess what? We're going to see the truth come out. And if we don't see people like Nancy Pelosi held accountable, then we don't have a country anymore.
Yeah, it says a largely false narrative, and then goes on in the same sentence, one that blamed then Speaker Nancy Pelosi. And let me just remind you.
Yeah, thank you.
Clearly didn't know, and I take responsibility for not having them just prepare for more. We have,
And that's in reference to the National Guard. Jumping back over here, Democrats and Republicans also fought over the fate of a commemorative plaque mandated by Congress to honor those who protected the Capitol on January 6th, with Speaker Mike Johnson maintaining the project was untenable. It's one step up from naming post offices.
a plaque is untenable. Boy, they really are useless, huh?
They are so useless. Now, the one thing, so I read that and I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is going back to Congress. All they can do is name post office and pat themselves on the back and fight when something directly affects either their, personal finances or their personal, day-to-days. Now, the one thing that was a little bit hopeful for me is the next paragraph. Loudermilk said he had not spoken to Johnson about the memorial tablet and hasn't been following the controversy around it, but suggested he wasn't opposed to it. I don't have a problem putting it up. I think you need to honor the police. I mean, the rank and file police. They were just doing their job. Good answer. So Loudermilk saying, I'm not concerned with a fucking tablet. I don't care about a tablet. I'm dealing with an autistic black man right now who has no tie to this bombing other than some alleged, accusations about his cell phone pinging there. The most absurd story you could ever imagine. They're going to have a hearing on that. Are we going to get anything out of it? I don't know. Let's see. This is going to be the first hearing from this committee, this subcommittee. And I want to see, are they going to be smoke and mirrors, or are they going to actually ask tough questions and get the right witnesses in there? Or is it just going to be a promulgation or a continuation of the main narrative that they've seeded, that it was totally Brian Cole Jr., the autistic black man who lives in his mom's basement and plays with My Little Ponies? It was totally that guy. And also he saved all the receipts from everything he's bought over the last 2 years leading up to January 6th. And those receipts don't fade like the ones in Fulton County. Total propaganda.
Agreed.
All right, let's jump into some of the Somali fraud. We've got a lot of updates on the Somali fraud. Governor Tim Walz saying the quiet part out loud.
State full accountability for everybody, because I buck stops with me. I'm accountable for this, and because of that accountability, I'm not running for office again. But I have a year to continue to improve on a record that I think will stand up against anybody's, a record that has made Minnesota better, a record that makes people want to come here, and a record that has respected not only the dignity of people, but the idea of rule of law.
So if the buck stops with him and he takes accountability for it, and he's not running for governor, he's not going to run again for governor as a result of that, what else do you need in court?
The will.
Yeah, the will. That's a great point.
The political will and the stones to actually do it.
That fair enough, but I mean that's pretty boneheaded of him to to admit that. I take accountability. The buck stops with me, and that's why I'm not running for governor. It's more than just not running for governor. You're going to retire with a pension. You're probably going to run for higher office. You're going to run for a Senate seat, right? I'm not going to run for governor because I fucked this state up really bad, but I should be your senator. Right. You also almost potentially were the quote unquote vice president of the United States. But here's Dr. Oz talking about this on Laura Ingraham.
We have just sent a letter to Governor Walz alerting him to something he probably fears and should have taken action in a timely manner to avoid. We are auditing all of the Medicaid bills, in particular for the 14 programs that he and his own administration have admitted were problems. And we're going to claw that money back from the Medicaid monies that they'll be getting. Now, this is a major problem for the state because they've got to own the fact that they have been bilking the federal taxpayer for their sloppy behavior for years. What we have learned so far in Minnesota is just the tip of the
Pause
iceberg.
it for a second.
This Medicaid scam.
It's not sloppy behavior. It lets them off the hook. It is not sloppy behavior. It is intentional corruption and money laundering and theft. They are stealing.
100%. 100%. And they know it's coming. I think
But
the
Oz shouldn't say sloppy. Oh, they're sloppy behavior. They're just so negligent. They just can't figure out that this fraud scheme is happening. No, they're in on it. It's intentional. It's a portfolio of crime and they need to be held accountable, and calling it sloppy lets them off the hook.
Yeah. To be fair though, this is in reference, and I should have clarified this in the beginning. This is in reference to Medicaid. This isn't even the daycare thing. And with this, I still think that this is going to be way bigger than the daycare thing. The daycare thing, I said this before, it's the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. And I think you had a snide comment to make it that when I said that last week. But yeah, so I think this is the tip of the tip of the tip. And it's the beginning. The daycare stuff, the Medicaid, the elections, like when you start unpacking all of this, and not only that, the fact that it's not exclusive to Minnesota. This is going to be in all 49 of the other 49 states in addition to Minnesota. All right, let's keep going here.
Ever taking place throughout the state in many different fashions. But just alone with the things that we're concerned about, we're talking about $500 million or more of money that could be in places that we're not even sure how it was billed, where it went. People are having trouble tracking it. We challenged the Walz administration to give us a corrective action plan by the end of the year. They sent us something after hours on New Year's Eve. It was completely insufficient. This is an appropriate response from the federal government. President Trump's very clear on this. He doesn't want 6 million people or less living in Minnesota to have all the fraud that happened in that state paid for by all the other taxpayers in the country. And for the 6 million people in Minnesota, Governor Walz let you down. His administration, despite all the blustering now, did not do their job. They did not take these very credible allegations over the last several years seriously. Just in the time that I've been administrator, they've been telling us that they have this handled. They did not. And so the corrective action plans that they have submitted, since they are inadequate, we're going to demand that they fix those problems, and we're going to claw back money to protect the federal taxpayer.
All right. So again, unless something is done about this, the fraud will continue. It will just continue under a new governor, a new modus operandi. They'll change things around a little bit and make it so that, oh, well, this time we didn't know. They need to start busting these administrators that had the oversight and getting them to talk. How far up did you go with this? Did this ever actually reach the governor's office? And I'm sure it did. And who was complicit in this? And until we get that, we talked last week about this. We're taking pawns off the chessboard right now. In the daycare thing where they're bragging about all these people that have been arrested, that's pawns. You can still win the chess game without the pawns, right? They're the first to go. They're sacrificial. So until we get real accountability, we're not going to see anything change here.
Yeah, agreed.
And one more clip from Dr. Oz on the Medicare. He's got another clip that we're going to play here that's kind of sort of related, but not really.
It's true. A Somali fraud ring in Minnesota stole over $1 billion from Medicaid. How did this happen? Well, Medicaid programs are run by the states, which in Minnesota means the Tim Walz administration. Governor Walz and the state's other Democrats rely on Somali votes to get elected. So they decided to look the other way because they were afraid of, quote unquote, political backlash. Don't take my word for it. That's what a Somali American fraud investigator told the New York Times. When these scammers realized that nobody was guarding the cash register, they went gangbusters. One program designed to provide housing stabilization assistance to patients ballooned to $104 million, when 4 years ago it was projected to cost only $2.6 million. Some of these taxpayer funds may have even ended up in the hands of a Somalian terrorist group. Scary stuff. When CMS became aware of the housing program situation, Minnesota insisted it could clean up its own mess. A few months ago, it admitted it could not. So we stepped in to shut down the fraud-infested housing initiative. Today, we're taking action on more than a dozen other programs, which I've outlined in the post below. Our message to Walls is clear. Either fix this in 60 days or start looking under your couch for spare change, because we are done footing the bill for your incompetence. This administration will never stop fighting to protect the vulnerable Americans who rely on these programs and the taxpayers who fund them. We're going to crush waste, fraud, and abuse.
All right. Now, also hold people accountable for
prosecute it. We're going to stop it from happening. We're going to stop this from happening, guys. We're going to stop all of this fraud, crime, and nobody's going to get held accountable for it. So it's going to happen again the second we take our eye off the ball, but we're going to stop it from happening. We're going to stop the money flows. Great. That gets us about 25% of the way to where we need to be. Turn off the leak, right? Turn off the spigot. Okay. How are we clawing it back? How are we prosecuting the people that engaged in this fraud scheme? And how are we ensuring that it never happens again? Because just stopping it, this is, you and I talked about this before. You know, the idea that the process is the punishment. My concern is that people like Congress and a lot of the judicial apparatus people and bureaucrats in executive branch functions believe that the process actually is the punishment. That if you go through and you have you have complaints lodged or performance things lodged in your file, or you have to go through a trial, but don't worry, because by the end of it we're going to get you out of this thing. You have a bunch of bureaucratic process steps that don't actually have anything to do with justice. They will not move the needle a millimeter towards restoring public trust in these institutions. But for the people that run the institutions, that's going to be enough, because the process is the punishment for them. There are actual punishments. Well, come on, guys. We don't need actual punishments for treason. That's crazy. We're a way more evolved society than that now. We don't have to actually punish people for treason. No, actually, we do. And as Thomas Jefferson said, tree of liberty, blood of patriots and tyrants.
Do you remember, speaking of the punishments, do you remember that the Obama phone fraud scheme that I was telling you about? The guy that, and I showed you where that guy lives in like this massive, Ash saw it. This guy defrauded the government of somewhere around $130 million through a company called Q-Link Wireless. And he lives on a 50-acre mansion. Like there's like 5 houses on the property. They're all like, they look like palaces. They're all of them, every single one. Massive property. I got an update on that. He was convicted of money laundering. He was ordered to pay back $128 million. I think $50 million he had shipped over to Jordan. He's Palestinian. I think he's Palestinian. He's Arab. He's Arab. When you look him up in the Bureau of Prisons, because I was trying to figure out where he's at and all that stuff, and I'm not going to divulge his name, although you can find it very easily. He's listed as white.
Nice. Of course.
And he's also at, after defrauding the government, he's doing 5 years, which he'll be out in probably 2. He's at FPC Montgomery, which is in Alabama, and it's a prison camp. And it is like, if you go to the FPC Montgomery's website, it's beautiful. Like it's landscaped. It's got trees with flowers and like, it's beautiful. And I'm like, this guy defrauded the American government of $130 million. And he's in a prison camp, allegedly. I've heard that he's not at a prison camp and that he's confined to his property. But anyways, let's
before we move off this kind of generalized justice topic, there's a bunch of people in the chat throughout the show today who have said, kind of similar related comments, either exact comments or related comments to Pam Bondi as a problem. It's Pam Bondi's fault that nothing has happened. And I would just like to point out to folks that have fully bought into that narrative started immediately upon President Trump coming into office. His team, as soon as they were appointed, they were problematic. And that narrative is predominantly coming from the same Trump-hating DeSantis simps that we watched after the 2022 midterms in the run. We don't need Trump anymore. We can move on from this. The same people that are propping up JD Vance, the same. So, maybe it's true, right? Maybe those spooks who now, half those people are admittedly members of the CIA or otherwise intelligence community. Maybe those guys lie to us about a whole bunch of stuff, and they've lied to us for the past 4 years about all these stories. But when it comes to Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and the people that were being told are super duper bad guys in the administration, they're totally those CIA spooks are totally telling us the truth about that now. I do not believe that public disclosure is the goal. A lot of people want public disclosure to be the goal. I want to know who's on the list. I want to know who did the thing. I want to know. I want to know too, but I want them to be prosecuted. I want them to stop walking around breathing free air. And the one thing that I've learned over the past few years is that the justice system is set up to protect the rights of the accused. We've always been told that, but you can see it in the rules. It's actually framed that way. So if we are going to prosecute these people and get to the point where we can hold them accountable, we have to do everything by the book. It has to be checked by the book. And I know others will say, yeah, we've been told that for a long time. Doesn't make it not true. Took 20 years to get meaningful arrests in the organized crime it started in the 1950s. It wasn't until the 1970s that we got meaningful arrests in that RICO conspiracy. This one's way, way bigger.
Yeah, there's a lot of work here. I watched, the Tucker interview where he was with Matt Gaetz, where he was talking about when Matt Gaetz was nominated and how he was pressured out by certain individuals that said they would never ever vote for him. So he withdrew. And then, like you said, when Bondi comes in, the same people start attacking her. And now the new attack from, newly disclosed CIA, either agents or assets, we don't know the extent, is that Pam Bondi and Susie Wiles are part of a Tallahassee lobbying firm that tried to buy them off. And we totally know that Susie Wiles rejected the bribe. But we don't know whether or not Bondi did. And so therefore Bondi's bad. I also want to remind you that if you're going to, be looking at things like that as your assessment, whether or not somebody's good or bad, I do want to remind you that when Trump went to Mar-a-Lago and had that super secret, kind of skiff set up for the Venezuela operation, Susie Wiles was not there, which is similar to the Baghdadi operation where Mick Mulvaney was not there, nor was, Esper wasn't invited. Secretary of Defense Esper wasn't invited, but he showed up. And Gina Haspel watched it from Langley. She wasn't at the White House either. So I do want to, just point that out. And again, I'm not saying that means anything, but it's not lost on me that Trump knew the Venezuelan operation was going to be happening, and he did it from Mar-a-Lago instead of the White House. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into, there was one other thing. Oh man, there's one other thing on this that I wanted to mention, and just like that, it's gone. Yeah, the Bondi stuff, anything Bondi's working on, you're not going to get public disclosure on this because these are all things that would compromise investigations, that would compromise, potentially taint the jury. So I know people are freaking out. I'm with you. I told you guys.
I'm not with you. I'm not freaking out on this. I think this Bondi Wiles thing is a very specific group of people that have been forwarding that very specific narrative since the beginning of the second Trump administration. And in terms of Susie Wiles, since before. You can believe those things that you're being told by your favorite CIA influencers, and that's totally fine for you to believe them. You cannot claim to know them, though. You cannot claim that that Susie Wiles is a bad guy and that Pam Bondi is a bad guy because you haven't gotten exactly the disclosure that you want yet. That's very simple, very stupid, but you do you.
All right, let's play this clip of ICE acting ICE director Todd Lyons talking about, the 2,000 ICE agents. We mentioned this story yesterday, although he doesn't specifically say it's the 2,000 ICE agents, but this is a story we covered yesterday where they're sending 2,000 federal agents, I should say, to Minneapolis to go door to door to check out this fraud.
We have the largest immigration operation ever taking place right now. It's a great effort by ICE. Both of our components, enforcement removal operations and Homeland Security investigations, they're on the ground. HSI agents, have you seen in the media, have been going door to door to a lot of these suspected, companies that are not only hiring illegal aliens that shouldn't even be in the country, but also, being involved in potential human smuggling, human trafficking cases, but also looking at these fraud cases as well. But one thing we should really know, too, is the fact that states like Minnesota that have a strong sanctuary city policy and sanctuary protections do attract other illegal aliens to come there to take advantage of welfare, public assistance, SNAP benefits. And that's just a
Okay, so keep that segment, keep that clip in mind as we jump into this one, because this is something, again, our audience, especially those that watch Why We Vote with Ash and I, we're preaching to the choir on this. Dr. Oz is preaching to the choir on this.
Well, these fraudsters, and you're right, Minnesota.
It's really low. Can you make that louder?
Okay. Well, these fraudsters, and you're right, Minnesota Nice made it easy for them to make out like bandits. But let me share something with you that I learned recently. By federal law, if you sign someone up for Medicaid, you also give them the right to vote. So ironically, it's true for SNAP as well. As you give out social services, you also get them registered to vote. So you're building up a very partisan group of individuals. This is political patronage at the expense of Medicaid. The criminal part here is not just a horrible waste and fraud and abuse of our federal tax dollars, but you're taking money from our most vulnerable citizens. If you're lying about the fact that you have Somalian kids pretending to be autistic, that takes services away from kids who truly have autism. You're trying to make money off of an illness that is a challenge that's already significant, and you're penalizing our most vulnerable.
All right. So the big thing there for me was the takeaway was the Medicaid, automatic voter registration and Medicaid, SNAP, and all those things. And again, you got to think
we know that already, don't we? It's not new information.
These illegals that are getting enrolled in SNAP and all these benefits are not, I don't think they're the ones necessarily. I mean, there's always exceptions, and there's going to be a small percentage that are benefiting like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, like some of these daycare operators and stuff. I think that a little bit separate there. There's probably overlap, like a Venn diagram. There's the middle circle. Though I don't think those people vote, but they vote. Right? And we talk about this all the time. They don't vote themselves. Somebody votes for them. Just my take on all that. So hopefully we get some movement as a bonus for all this as we get movement on the voter rolls as we're investigating all the fraud that's raping the American people, pillaging the American people. Another story that we covered on here that's very much related from Just the News. Feds probe hundreds of millions in suspected Somali cash and luggage leaving Memphis airport. This was Liz Collins at Alpha News. We played a clip of her interviewing a TSA agent whistleblower that was calling this out. Now we're getting some movement from TSA and from other investigatory agencies. TSA flagged nearly $700 million in cash detected in passengers' luggage leaving the Minneapolis airport the last 2 years, a massive cash exodus believed to be tied to Somali immigrants. The cash movement began about a decade ago, around the time Democrat Governor Tim Walz took office, and has grown substantially in recent years. All were legally declared. According to U.S. Custom rules, anything over 10,000, you have to declare it. He didn't clarify that because I said last time, I was like, anything over 10,000 is illegal. He didn't clarify that they declared it and legally did it. The bundles of cash in the luggage, some as much as $1 million in a single trip, raised regular suspicion among TSA agents. Last year, a federal jury convicted the head of the now defunct organization Feeding Our Futures in Minnesota for the largest ever fraud of the pandemic, involving $250 million. This one involved a small number of money couriers of Somali descent who took routine routes to Dubai via Amsterdam, usually from Minneapolis, but other times from Seattle, Dallas, Columbus, and Atlanta. Minneapolis travelers alone had $342.37 million in their luggage in 2024 and $349.4 million in 2025. Totals nationwide are likely to be larger. And then they blame racism if they ask questions.
Yeah. It's been very effective up to this point.
Yeah.
You throw out racism allegations and people shut all the way down.
Yep. The article goes on to say Missouri State Treasurer Vivek Malek says more than $200 billion leaves the United States annually through remittances, with Mexico alone receiving over $52 billion and billions more heading to China. Some sizable portion of that involves illegal immigrants, most of whom crossed the border during the Biden years. First of all, an illegal immigrant should never be flying with that much cash. If it's over the $10,000 courier, that should be a no bueno. That is literally laundering money, country level money laundering from the United States and taking it someplace else when you're here illegally. Quote, it has been found that at least $4.4 billion in remittances sent to Mexico had been tied to cartel money laundering through small wire transfers. Cartels don't sneak money across the border or throw bags across the border. They wire it. And if we are serious about crushing cartels, we have to shut down their financial arteries. And I'll land that one right there.
Yeah. And I think we see evidence that we are shutting down their financial arteries, which is exciting and all good stuff. See what happens.
Man, I do want to play. I'll play this clip real quick. General Flynn put this out about Speaker Johnson making some bold accusations here.
Just so people know, and I'm very transparent about what I'm doing out there for the most part. I am in the process because I want Speaker Johnson to do more. And so we started looking at Speaker Johnson's PACs and how many of his PACs turn money back around to daycare and healthcare clinics and that kind of stuff. It's incredible the amounts of money, and that's one person, but he happens to be the Speaker of the House. So this is not a partisan thing for me.
So again, that's the accusation that's being made there. I'm going to go back and actually listen to that whole show to get more context out of that, because that is going against the Speaker of the House, saying that he's laundering money to daycares and healthcare facilities. That's pretty bold. And
put up receipts to support it if it's true. And if it's true, then Mike Johnson should be prosecuted.
That's what I'm saying. Let's have a little fun before we get into Rumble Rants. And
I don't think we have any Rumble Rants.
Okay, well then before we end the show, let's go ahead and play this clip here, because I posted that this might win the internet for 2026, and we're only 7 days into it.
Here at the South Park Leering Center, we're not just retarded, we're Minnesota retarded. Was educated here, and she's completely retarded. And I know this might come as a surprise, but I myself am retarded.
Amazing. You should be careful though, because the Pharisees in the chat are going to be mad at you for playing that.
Why? Because it says retarded.
Yeah, and it also had the F word in it.
I know. Yeah, I know. People get so mad because we say the F word. We're not regulated. We don't have anybody regulating us. We say what we want. Do what we want. Oh, you know what I do have to mention, since we don't have rants to go through? This was like, what? From AF Post, the judge presiding over Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption case has been found dead. He's been found dead.
But he died in a car accident, right?
Yeah, Judge Benny Sagai.
Found dead is that implies something different, I think.
Yeah, president of the Beersheba District Court was killed in a traffic accident on Sunday, January 4th, 2026. As were two GOP. Well, excuse me. There were two GOP reps that just recently passed away. Doug LaMalfa passed away at 65, died suddenly from the Northern California District and chaired the Western Caucus. And also 80-year-old Indiana Representative Jim Baird is in the hospital after a car accident. He is supposedly, he's reportedly stable and responsive. So, that's a good thing. You don't ever want to see anybody die. Also, Reuters reported that a Japanese sushi restaurant bid $3.24 million for one single bluefin tuna, the highest price ever paid at an annual New Year auction of Tokyo's Toyosu Fish Market.
Amazing. I bet it's tasty.
I bet it is.
Just eat it right there and then. So we do actually have. So my the little Rumble rant thing didn't show any rants in it for me, but there are 3.
Way to go.
So
no, there's 4. I got it here.
Okay, you got it. Good. Okay.
Yeah. So John, 5. John, when we're late, it's Ash's fault. She told me there were no rants. Blame Ash.
He'll be fine.
Vera Barrow 1 just wanted to wish you all Orthodox Christians a very Merry Christmas today.
Yep.
Oh.
Merry Christmas to everyone, and tune in tomorrow to The Choice season 2 episode 1 of The Chosen. Ghost and I will be joined by General Quas for the first episode of season 2, and we are beginning now at 11 a.m. Eastern instead of 12 because Ghost and I needed an extra hour. So tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be a fun show.
Hold on. PR Collie says Tim Walz walking away from running as governor is just a step to pull a switcheroo with Klobuchar to run as governor of Minnesota and Walz for her Senate seat. Yeah. I mean, I think for him to come out and make an admission like that and then aspire to run for high office is pretty boneheaded, but it just goes to show you it's a testament to how fake and gay our elections actually are. Heather Jones 1, we can't have no Rumble rants. Thank you for fighting for votes. Thank you so much. And also Ash completely gave you mis and disinformation. I apologize.
I did because my little thingy wasn't working. So I apologize for that. And John says it's not fine for us to go over. So my bad. Don't blame Brian. Blame me. It's my fault.
Exactly. It's always
blame Brian a little bit.
No, it's always somebody else's fault. Back to common sense. ICE agent shot in Minnesota. Yes, I have that video. We can play this real quick. All right, so we're not actually getting any details. ICE agent shot. City of Minneapolis says avoid 34th and Portland. Shot. ICE agents ambushed. We're already figuring out. Okay, so yeah, I'm sure
now
John,
it's Brian's fault because he's just like scrolling Twitter now.
I'm sure John will have more on that on Daily Herald. Tune into that at 1 p.m. if you dare, and watch Babyface John. No facial hair like a man. It's cold up there. You're supposed to grow facial hair when it's cold, right? What's he doing?
I think I speak for all of us when I say that we're very happy it's growing back. It's starting to grow back.
Yeah, thank God. I can't work for a guy that looks like younger than me, even though he is younger than me. Lukester, thank you all for a great show. ML, and hope everybody, I think that means much love, and hope everybody had a great day.
Yes, much love. Thank you, Lukester.
Many lesbians. Thank you.
I don't think that's what it means.
Could be.
Maybe.
If this was Y-Chromes, it could. AH13, just because, guys, good morning. Thank you guys all so much. Please smash the thumb on the way out. We're going to do a hard exit here because I don't want to get yelled at anymore.
We're in trouble already.
He's already yelling at me?
Yeah. Both of us. He said I was going to cover that, but I won't have time now.
Maybe. Why does he need a whole hour to set up Rumble Studio?
No, don't question it.
I can't question it. I'm going to make him come on here and end it. No, I'm just kidding. See you guys later. We'll see you.
Bye, guys.